I could smell the roasted turkey wafting through the kitchen, mingling with the buttery mashed potatoes and the rich scent of pumpkin pie. From the living room, the TV blasted a football game, and my dad yelled every time the Giants scored, like a kid who forgot he was pushing 70. My mom kept scurrying around, fussing over the embroidered tablecloth with her name on it, desperate to keep everything perfect. Aunt Mary took the chance to ask her about cranberry sauce, and my cousin Jake was giggling over his beer, as if he knew a big show was about to start. I'm Nathan, 32, used to be a tech project manager. I sat silently in the corner of the table, feeling like a decorative side dish no one actually wanted to touch. I glanced around that family photo on the wall, the one where Ryan always stood center stage while I was pushed to the edge, barely half a shoulder visible. My grip tightened around my fork so hard my knuckles turned white. I kept asking myself why I came back, why I ever thought today might be different. Ryan, my older brother, stepped into the middle of the room, raising a glass of deep red wine. His voice rang out, "All right, everyone. Before we get to Mom's pumpkin pie, I'd like to make a toast." He glanced at me, a twisted smirk curling up. My heart skipped. I knew what was coming, but I was powerless to stop it. "Let's thank Nathan," he sneered, "for teaching this family a valuable lesson. Never dump your savings into some delusional pipe dream." He paused for a beat, eyes locked on me, daring me to break. Then he kept going. Remember that data security startup you wasted 5 years on? It crashed before you even learned how to pitch to investors. Oh, and let's not forget how your girlfriend bailed the second she heard you went bankrupt. Jake's snicker exploded across the room like gasoline on a fire. Aunt Mary ducked her head, scooping up more bread, avoiding my eyes. My mom covered her mouth, eyes cloudy pity or shame. I couldn't tell. My dad stared blankly at the TV, pretending none of this was happening. My heart sank into my gut, hot and heavy like molten lead. Ryan stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough so everyone could still hear. "But wait, do you all know why that startup really failed? Because Nathan was dumb enough to get sued for fraud, rumor has it. He embezzled funds. Though, honestly, we all know he's not even smart enough to pull that off." A cold current ran down my spine. I wanted to scream that it wasn't true, that Ryan himself had spread those rumors. But my voice locked in my throat, solid as stone. I looked at him and saw that sick, twisting glee in his eyes. This was supposed to be a day for family, a day to give thanks. But to me, it felt like a stage where Ryan came to murder whatever dignity I had left. I darted a desperate glance at my mom, praying for a nod, a word of defense, but she avoided my eyes, tears streaking her cheeks, her fingers wringing a napkin into a wrinkled mess. I turned to my dad, but he shifted in his chair, looking like he'd bolt out the door if he could. Jake was now laughing outright, and Aunt Mary kept mumbling something about the cranberry sauce. I clutched my fork so hard I thought it might snap. In my head, I pictured myself standing up, smashing Ryan's wine glass to the floor, watching him scream in fear. I wanted to punch that smug grin right off his face, to scream out every ugly truth. But I didn't, because I knew that if I did, it would only fuel another round of laughter, another scar on my name. I couldn't let Ryan win again. I took a deep breath, locking my gaze onto his. My lips pressed together, forcing myself to stay calm. And in that moment, one thought flared in my mind. Keep laughing. Ryan, you'll see. I won't die here. Not tonight. Ryan turned back to the table, raising his glass high. Everyone, cheers to Nathan, the greatest dreamer I've ever known. Glasses clinked in a chorus that cracked like a whip in my ears. I scanned their faces, Aunt Mary pretending to uncork more wine, Jake tilting his head with that vile grin. My mom collapsed onto the table, my dad poking at the gravy. I stood up slowly, adjusting my collar, staring Ryan straight in the eyes. He paused, his face flickering when he saw my stare. I let a razor-thin smile crawl across my lips. Enjoy it, Ryan. This'll be the last time you ever get to laugh like that. I walked out of the dining room, the sound of chairs scraping, muffled gasps, and sobs chasing after me. I didn't look back. Every step thundered in my chest, reminding me no one's in my corner, but that's exactly why I have to stand up. Next time, I won't come back for turkey or pumpkin pie. Next time, I'll come back with fire. I remember every winter night in New Jersey, when the cold wind slipped through the cracks of my attic window. I used to curl up on my narrow bed, wrapped in a blanket so thin it might as well have been paper. Meanwhile, Ryan slept downstairs in the big bedroom on the second floor, with his own fireplace and a thick Macy's down comforter, his first football trophy sitting proudly on the shelf. Ryan had always been the golden boy, tall, broad-shouldered, that chiseled jawline, and his blonde hair slicked back like one of those all-American high school heartthrobs. My dad would beam with pride in front of guests. That's Ryan, team captain, honor student. He's going to carry this family to new heights. And me, I was just the shy, scrawny little brother they mentioned, like an afterthought. I remember being 10 when Ryan won his first MVP trophy. Mom threw a whole party, hung banners, and made a football-shaped cake. I stood at the staircase clutching my old Lego set, the only thing that truly felt like mine. I just wanted her to turn around and praise me for finishing that spaceship model I'd worked on for weeks. Instead, she brushed past me, ruffled my hair absent-mindedly, and turned back to Ryan, her eyes sparkling. My amazing boy, you're incredible. From that moment on, I learned to stay quiet. I bit my tongue as Ryan soaked up all the praise, all the investment private coaches, elite tutoring programs. Meanwhile, I got forced into business classes to do something respectable, even though all I wanted was to draw, to build, to create freely, but no one ever asked me what I wanted. I grew up to a constant chorus of comparison. Every failed test brought a shout from Dad. Why can't you be more like Ryan? He's never disappointed us. When I applied to art school, Mom cried for a week, accusing me of destroying the family's reputation. Ryan never missed a chance to hammer in my inadequacy. He'd hide my homework and laugh when I got bad grades. One time, he tore up a painting I had spent 3 months on for a competition and sneered, "Who cares about your dumb drawings? You think you're going to eat off that crap when you grow up?" Slowly, I started to believe him. I believed I was born to fail, to exist only in his shadow. But deep inside, every night in that freezing attic, I imagined myself on a stage, heard the crowd chanting my name, saw the lights shining on me, felt Mom and Dad's tears of pride for me, not him. Then every morning, I'd wake up and see that family photo in the hallway, Ryan dead center, arms draped around Mom and Dad, while I stood at the edge, forced smile plastered on like I was just a lifeless prop. I used to think that if I became successful enough, made enough money, they'd love me, even when I started my startup. Ryan kept mocking me, calling it just a hobby project and predicting I'd crash and burn. Mom would sigh. "Why don't you ask Ryan for advice? He's so smart. He could help you." But I didn't want his help. I wanted to stand alone, for once not hidden under his looming shadow. Ryan was obsessed with being the perfect son. The way his eyes lit up at praise, that smug laughter. The way he strutted when Dad bragged to the neighbors, it all screamed of his terror of being dethroned. He would never allow anyone, especially me, to surpass him. I knew that better than anyone. I used to think that if I just stayed obedient, if I just kept trying, they would finally love me. But I was wrong. Ryan never wanted me to be loved. He wanted me hated, forever crushed under his feet so he could keep his head held high, unchallenged. Tonight, after that savage Thanksgiving dinner, I realized I'm no longer that trembling kid shivering in the attic. I'm done begging for love, done craving those pitiful glances. There's a fire burning inside me now. I don't know exactly what I'll do yet, but I know one thing: Ryan won't keep stomping on me forever. I closed my eyes, replaying that imagined applause, the spotlight on me this time. It felt real. I whispered to myself, "One day, you'll have to look up to see me." The next morning, I woke up on that old, lumpy couch in my temporary rental apartment, my back screaming in pain, cold sweat sticking to my skin. Faint sunlight trickled through the dusty, thin curtains, highlighting the instant noodle cups scattered across the floor. I shot upright, my chest tightening as last night's memories crashed over me like a tidal wave. I could still hear Ryan's laughter echoing in my head, the clinking wine glasses, my mom's pitying gaze. I gripped the edge of my shirt, whispering to myself, how long am I supposed to swallow this humiliation? Have I really lost everything? Then my eyes drifted to my small desk, where a stack of rough sketches for my security startup still sat. The scribbled notes looked messy and rushed, but each line was carved from my blood and tears. I'd spent 5 years pouring every dime, every ounce of willpower into that project, living frugally, scraping by. But Ryan didn't just steal my project. He stole the last shred of faith I had in myself. I stumbled into the bathroom and stared at my reflection. Hollow face, dark circles under my eyes like ink stains. I splashed water on my face, but the grime inside me wouldn't wash off. My phone buzzed a bank notification, balance a few $100s left. I just stared at it and let out a bitter laugh. Ryan was probably somewhere right now, enjoying an expensive breakfast, reading the morning paper, replaying last night's twisted performance in his head. I remembered when he was in college, the first time I dared show him my startup proposal. My eyes had lit up like a kid showing off a brand new toy. Ryan barely glanced at it before tossing it in the trash. "You don't know shit about business," he said. "That crap's for idiots with pipe dreams." I just stood there, listening to the sound of paper crumpling, my heart folding up along with it. Ryan didn't just want to win, he needed me erased. He needed to stay the perfect son to keep scamming our parents, pulling in shady investments, sitting on a throne built from my disgrace. That afternoon, I wandered aimlessly through downtown. Glass skyscrapers reflected the bleak, gray sky. Luxury cars glided past like sharks. In my head, Ryan's voice kept repeating, "You were born to fail." I stopped at a tiny cafe and saw a group of college students huddled together, pitching project ideas, eyes bright, grinning wide. It jolted me back to the first time I ever pitched my security concept to an investment panel. I'd been so nervous, sweat soaking my back, but when I saw those curious eyes watching me, I thought, maybe this time, they'll finally see me. I ordered a black coffee and sat down. On the table in front of me lay a local newspaper. The front page showed Ryan smiling smugly, handing over a charity check, arm raised like some heroic leader. The headline read, "Young entrepreneur inspires community with his success." I squeezed my coffee cup so hard I thought it might shatter. In that instant, a lightning bolt of an idea struck. If I had evidence, I could bring it all down. I remembered that desperate phone call Ryan had made to my boss, his voice low and half mocking. I remembered the day I was called into the office, forced to sign resignation papers, everything ripped away from me. I remembered the look in my boss's eyes, not hatred, but fear. Maybe there was something in those old internal emails. Maybe a clue still hiding there. I rushed home, heart pounding like a drum. I tore open my old laptop, logged into an ancient email account I hadn't touched in years. Hundreds of spam messages, debt notices, junk. I scrolled wildly, nearly ready to give up. Then I saw an email from an old partner. The subject line was barely legible, "FYI, things you should know about Ryan." My hands shook so badly the mouse nearly slipped from my grasp. I clicked it open, reading every single word. Each line felt like a knife slicing into my chest. Attached emails exposed Ryan's schemes, how he framed me as a scapegoat to keep his own image spotless with the family and investors. I gasped for air, nearly collapsing, but instead of despair, a surge of hot blood rushed through me. A voice inside me roared, "He picked the wrong person to destroy." I looked around that dingy room, then back at the glowing screen. The attic nights, the forgotten dinners, the family photo that always shoved me to the edge, they all flooded back. But this time, not to strangle me. This time, They lit a fuse. I let out a small, shaky laugh, the first real laugh in ages. I didn't crave their love anymore. I didn't need their praise. I wanted Ryan to pay. "This is just the beginning," I whispered. And this time, I knew for damn sure I wouldn't stop halfway. Three, the apartment was pitch black, except for the cold blue glow from my laptop screen lighting up my face. I had read those emails over and over, dozens of times. Each pass made my blood boil hotter. Those sterile words, the numbers, the undeniable evidence. Ryan's plan to destroy me had been so meticulous, it was almost pathological. Forged signatures, bribed my old boss, spread rumors that I'd committed fraud to force me out. He didn't just want my project, he wanted to make sure I could never crawl back up again. I leaned back in my chair and let out a bitter laugh. My whole life, I had lived under his shadow, swallowing every humiliation, begging for even the tiniest crumb of approval. But tonight, it hit me my family's love had never belonged to me, and I had nothing left to lose. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out an oldie, frayed wallet. Digging through it, I found the business card of Mr. Harris, a veteran lawyer Ryan had publicly humiliated at a charity event last year. I'd been standing in the corner that night, listening as Ryan said, "That old man should just retire. Lawyers like him are nothing but parasites, feeding us those fake moral lectures." Harris had stayed silent, just gave a thin smile before leaving early. I'd picked up his forgotten business card and shoved it into my wallet, not really knowing why I kept it. I gripped the card, my hands trembling and sweaty. I was scared not of Ryan, but of myself, scared of stepping across that line, from the meek little brother to someone capable of striking back, tearing everything down. I took a deep breath and dialed the number. The dial tone dragged on. Then that gravelly, unmistakable voice answered. "Hello," I swallowed hard. "Mr. Harris, this is Nathan. I have evidence on Ryan." He stayed silent for a few seconds. I thought he'd hang up. Then I heard a long sigh. "Send it all to me. From now on, you're not alone." When the email finally went out, I collapsed over the desk, gasping for breath. My entire body was soaked in sweat, my heart pounding out of rhythm. In that moment, I didn't feel like a failure anymore. I felt reborn, every vein in me surging with a rage I had buried for years. For the next 3 weeks, I lived like a ghost. During the day, I worked as a waiter at a small diner on Hudson Street to pay rent. At night, I sat with Harris in his cramped office, sifting through every piece of evidence, dissecting every detail. Each email, each bank transfer, every scribbled note, we turned it all inside out. Some nights, staring at myself in the diner's grimy bathroom mirror, I saw my hollowed-out face, red-rimmed eyes, patchy stubble. Sometimes I thought I saw Ryan's smirk behind me, heard him whisper, "You were born to be crushed." But this time, I just curled my lips into a faint smirk of my own. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. Every step I took, every document I prepared, felt like another slice cutting away at his shiny facade. One late weekend night, as Harris and I pored over papers in his tiny office, he paused, those old but razor-sharp eyes locking onto mine. "Are you sure you want to see this through? If we go all the way, Ryan won't have anything left: money, reputation, freedom, everything." I looked him dead in the eyes. "I already lost everything. This time, I'm taking it back, not for them, but for me." Harris nodded slowly, lips pressed tight. He rested his hand on the thick stack of files, his voice dropping lower. "I used to think you were weak, but now, I realize you're the scariest client I've ever had." I gave a dry laugh. "I don't want to be scary. I just want to exist without someone's boot on my neck." Over the next 3 years, I took night classes in law, grinding through late-night seminars and cramming case studies between shifts. I saved every tip from the diner, used every spare dollar to hire financial analysts, private investigators. I turned every humiliation into fuel, sharpening myself day after day, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The family thought I had disappeared, A pitiful failure roaming the streets. Ryan kept playing hero, giving speeches at universities, donating to charities, flaunting his golden son image. Meanwhile, I waited in the shadows, patient as a blade. One late autumn night, I stood out on the balcony of my dingy temporary apartment, cold wind slicing across my face. I looked down at the city below, couples holding hands, groups laughing under the glow of streetlights. I remembered Ryan's laugh, the applause when he accepted awards, my parents' proud faces. I closed my eyes, fingers tightening on the railing, whispering, "It's time. You're finally going to see me not as the worthless brother, but as the nightmare you never saw coming." I turned back inside, placing my hand on the stack of files that had now tripled in size. My heart beat steady. This time, I was ready. 3 years later. This Thanksgiving. Rain drummed steadily against the window of the rental car I drove up to the family mansion. I turned off the engine and stared at my reflection in the glass. My hair was neatly cut. The black tailored suit hugged my shoulders and chest perfectly. No trace of that scrawny, hollow-eyed waiter remained. I stepped out. The cold wind whipped across my face, slicing through the thin fabric, but I didn't flinch. Each step on the stone path toward the house matched the calm, steady beat of my heart. I had waited too long for this moment. As the door swung open, the smell of roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, and pumpkin pie flooded the hallway. I heard my mom giggling with Aunt Mary in the kitchen, my dad lecturing the grandkids. Ryan's confident, smooth voice drifting from the living room. I paused at the threshold, taking it all in. The warm yellow glow of the lights, the Christmas tree already set up early, gifts piled beneath it, relatives snapping pictures, an all-American family postcard. But beneath that shiny surface, I knew the rot ran deep. Ryan turned and froze for a split second when he saw me, then broke into a wide smile and swaggered over. Nathan Look, who finally decided to crawl home and join us for the big feast. All eyes shifted toward me. Mom covered her mouth, stunned. Dad glanced up, then quickly looked away, pretending to adjust a napkin. Jake and the cousins traded snickers. I dipped my head slightly, offering a thin, polite smile. "Long time no see." Ryan threw his arm around my shoulder, giving it a patronizing squeeze. His voice dropped to a mocking whisper. "What's the matter? Run out of rent money? Or did you finally come crawling back for my charity? Maybe I'll consider, if you beg hard enough." I looked him dead in the eyes. For a moment, something flickered there, a glimmer of confusion, as if he didn't recognize the man now staring back at him. This wasn't the Nathan he'd crushed under his heel for decades. I gently pushed his arm off and stepped into the living room. The air shifted, hushed, as people began to murmur and avert their eyes. I strolled past the golden turkey, the creamy pumpkin pie, the glasses of swirling red wine. "It's been a while since I had Mom's pumpkin pie," I said, my voice low but steady. "Still smells just as good as I remember." Ryan burst out laughing, raising his glass high. "All right, everyone, let's toast to Nathan, the dreamer with no limits, the man who taught us how to fail in the most spectacular way." A few hesitant laughs followed. I heard Jake's smug snort. Aunt Mary stared at her plate, tearing bread into tiny bits. Mom trembled, a tear sliding down her cheek. I calmly pulled out a chair and sat down. Ryan sauntered closer, leaned in, and sneered. "Make sure to thank me later for even letting you sit at this table." I let out a small smirk. "Thanks for the reminder, but tonight, I'm not here for dinner." Ryan's eyebrows knit together, scanning me up and down. Then he scoffed, turned to the table, and raised his glass again. "All right, Nathan. You want your little moment? I'll give you a few minutes of spotlight. But after that, the grown-ups get back to celebrating." I slowly unbuttoned my suit jacket and pulled out a thick stack of files, slamming them onto the table. The sharp thud snapped the room silent. Only the low hum of the heater filled the void. Ryan's eyes bulged. "What the hell is this?" I looked around, meeting each face every fearful, trembling glance. I stopped at my mother, my voice slow and deliberate. In here is every piece of evidence detailing how Ryan embezzled Grandpa's inheritance fund, forged signatures, and destroyed my career and reputation. Every email, every bank transaction, every recorded call. Mom's napkin slipped from her hands. Her face turned ghost white. Dad dropped his fork, his hands shaking. Aunt Mary leaned back, mouth agape. Ryan lunged forward to grab the files, but I stood, pushing him back with barely any effort. Gone was the perfect big brother with unshakable control. Now, he was just a man exposed, eyes wild, breath ragged. You really thought I'd stay silent forever? That I'd always be the pathetic little brother under your boot? You were wrong, Ryan stammered. You're lying. No one's gonna believe you. I nodded slowly. I know. That's why tonight, I didn't come alone. I turned toward the doorway and gave a small nod. Mr. Harris stepped inside, dressed in a sharp gray suit, a heavy briefcase in hand, his gaze razor sharp. The room froze. The air sucked out. I turned back to Ryan, my eyes burning bright. It's time to pay up. Mr. Harris stepped slowly into the room, each click of his shoes on the hardwood floor echoing like a judge's gavel slamming down. He set his briefcase on the dinner table, opened it, and began laying out thick stacks of documents. Ryan stumbled backward, his hands shaking violently, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. Mr. Harris spoke firmly. I'll present this, in front of the entire family. He held up the first stack, his voice low and sharp as a blade. This is evidence showing Ryan forged Nathan's signature to drain money from your grandfather's inheritance fund. Here are the bank statements, hundreds of thousands, funneled into Ryan's personal accounts and then squandered on failed investments. A wave of gasps burst out. My mother broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. My father slammed his hand on the table, face flushed red. Ryan, is this true? You stole from your grandfather. From all of us, Ryan stuttered. No. He set me up, Mr. Harris didn't pause. He raised the second file. These are all the emails between Ryan and Nathan's former boss. They conspired to spread rumors that Nathan embezzled money, to destroy his reputation and force him out of his own data security startup. The ultimate goal to hijack Nathan's ideas and erase him from the industry entirely. I looked at Ryan, saw terror flooding his eyes for the first time. He scanned the table, searching for an ally, but no one met his gaze. Jake stared at the floor. Aunt Mary clutched her chest, her face ghostly pale. I took a step forward, facing Ryan head on. You thought you could bury me at rock bottom and keep standing on my broken pieces forever? You thought no one would ever see the truth. You were wrong, Ryan screamed, lunging to snatch the files. I shoved him hard, and he crashed to the floor, a wine glass rolling and spilling red across the carpet like blood. My mother shrieked. Aunt Mary covered her face and wept. Mr. Harris took a deep breath and declared coldly, I've already sent copies of all this evidence to the police and the family's lawyer. The arrest warrant is being executed today. A siren wailed outside. Ryan shrank back, crawling, voice trembling. Nathan, please, save me. Please. I looked down at him, memories flooding back the years he crushed me, the attic nights I cried alone, the humiliation when he tore up my artwork. My mother collapsed at my feet, grabbing my pants, tears streaming down her face. Nathan, please, spare him. He's still your brother. I looked down at her, my heart splitting open with a sharp, deep ache. Behind me, my father stood trembling, head bowed, too ashamed to speak. Ryan collapsed forward, clawing at my pant leg, tears pouring down his cheeks. Nathan, please, I'll give it all back. I'll apologize. I'm scared. Please. I looked at him, rage, contempt, pity, and liberation tangled inside me so tightly I could hardly breathe. I exhaled slowly, my voice steady, eerily calm. Do you remember what it felt like to force me to kneel in front of everyone? I remember every stare, every laugh. Now, you're finally tasting what you forced down my throat all those years. A loud knock rattled the door. Two officers stepped inside, faces stern. One grabbed Ryan, yanked him to his feet, and cuffed his hands behind his back. Ryan shrieked, thrashing, his face ashen, eyes bulging. I'm innocent. Nathan set me up. I'm a respected man. No one listened. No laughter, no glasses clinking, only the cold clink of handcuffs, my mother's choked sobs, and my father's heavy breathing. I stood tall, watching as they dragged Ryan past me toward the door, his face twisted in raw terror. The red and blue lights flickered across the hallway, flashing over my face. I turned to see my mother still kneeling, her hands trembling. I wanted to hug her, to cry with her, but my feet wouldn't move. I'm sorry, Mom, I whispered, my voice cracking, but I can't let him keep stepping on my life anymore. Silence swallowed the room. I turned and walked toward the door, each step heavy as lead, yet inside I felt lighter than I ever had. For the first time, I wasn't that trembling boy cowering in Ryan's shadow. For the first time, I truly existed as myself. Nathan. I stepped out onto the porch. The rain still fell in a thin, steady drizzle, each drop breaking against the shoulders of my black suit. The police car had already driven off, leaving only the amber streetlights reflecting on the slick pavement. I stood there for a long moment, breathing deep, feeling like I had finally lifted a boulder off my chest that had weighed me down for 30 years. Inside my head, all the laughter, the insults, the sneers, they began to fade, dissolving like a thin mist. I looked down at my hands, still trembling slightly, not from fear, but because, for the first time in my life, I felt truly powerful. The door creaked open behind me. I turned to see my mother standing there, her face streaked with tears, her shoulders shaking uncontrollably. My father stood behind her, silent, suddenly looking so much older, his hair streaked with silver at the temples. She rushed forward and collapsed against my chest, sobbing. Nathan, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't want to believe. I was so blind. I gently wrapped an arm around her, my hand resting on her trembling back. For a second, I felt her warmth, but my heart was hollow. I wasn't searching for her forgiveness or her love anymore. That ship had sailed long ago. My father stepped forward, but then stopped midway. His eyes were glassy, tired. He bowed his head, unable to speak. Mr. Harris stepped out behind them, gave me a steady nod. I'll handle the rest, he said calmly. You deserve peace. I nodded and shook his hand. Our eyes met. There was victory there, but also a quiet, unspeakable grief. Mr. Harris turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my parents on the porch. My mother clutched my hand, her tears soaking my sleeve. I slowly loosened her grip, stepping back. I have to go, I whispered. She looked up, panicked. Go where? Stay. You're still family. I shook my head, gave a faint, tired smile. I haven't been here for a long time. Mom, the day he tore up my painting, the day Dad called me a burden, that's the day I left this family. My father broke down then, really cried for the first time I'd ever seen, but I didn't turn back. I turned away, stepped off the porch, the rain slashing across my face like cold fingers. I walked straight to my car. The passenger seat was empty, the folders stacked neatly beside me. I started the engine, the growl echoing through the rainy night. In the rearview mirror, I saw my mother collapse on the porch, my father catching her, both of them looking like lost, hollow phantoms. I pressed the gas. The car rolled forward, pulling me away from that mansion forever. I didn't know where I was going. Maybe I'd start over in a new city. Maybe I'd disappear for a while. Maybe I'd keep studying law and help people who'd been crushed the way I was. But now, for the first time ever, the choice was mine. Soft jazz played from the radio, blending with the patter of rain on the roof. I thought back to the imagined stage from my childhood, the bright lights, the roaring applause calling my name. I smiled. Ryan had lost everything: his money, his reputation, his freedom. The family lay in ruins. But I didn't feel triumphant. I knew that in every victory, a part of you always gets left behind. I was still Nathan, but no longer the pathetic Nathan that Ryan used to know. Now, I was the author of my own story. I pushed the gas pedal harder, speeding into the rainy New Jersey night, the endless road stretching ahead finally. A road I dared to walk, alone, completely free.